What's up, guys? Today is Frisella Factor number 2, okay? We've got a lot of good questions today. I'm excited to get this going. If you're not familiar with the show, this is not like the podcast. I'm not here to motivate you. Now, while I might say things in a motivating way, we are here to learn actual practical steps that can help us grow our business and help us be successful. Got some great questions. If you have a question for the show, you can email it in to ask@themfceo.com and we'll answer it on the show. 25 seconds or less, a video. Let's get it going. In 1999, I started a business with no money and no clue. Today, my companies are crushing. I've created the life I've always dreamed of. I enjoy all the toys. I do what I want, when I want, with who I want. But the thing is, there's nothing special about me. I'm just a regular dude, just like you, who loves working on my farm, hanging out with my dogs, and having a few beers with my friends. But most of all, I love helping people succeed in business and in life. This is the Frisella Factor, and this is your show. All right, so Tyler, what do we got today, man?
Dude, we got some really good questions. You know, we go everywhere from online margins to the qualities that the entrepreneur should have, to diet, and also supervisor skills. So we cover just about everything. Cool.
So who's going to be first?
Calvin Chilchick.
Calvin Chilchick, huh? You sure that's his name? You sound like you butchered that.
Well, yeah, I don't know.
All right. So what's the question, Calvin?
How do you make money online as a retailer with a low margin business? You know, it's easy to say, raise your margins, but our price point can't go much higher. Everybody's talking about e-commerce, but if your margins are low and your costs are high, which online is, how do you actually make any money? Thanks, Andy. Really appreciate everything. Cheers.
Calvin, dude, that's a great question, man. I used to struggle with this in the pre-internet days, and the principles are the same. Back whenever we had our first retail store, we had a guy down the street that literally sold the exact same products, always for less, right? So we were for years and years and years, we were always price battling. And we had the same concerns. We're like, dude, how are we ever gonna make money? And the first thing we did wrong, which is what most entrepreneurs do wrong, is they think that if they have the lowest price, that eventually every single customer is gonna come to them and they're gonna then raise their price and make margin. Guys, this is a failing strategy. It's not gonna work. Never works out that way. I've never seen it work out that way. You don't have enough money to do it like that. Maybe Amazon can do it that way, but you and I, we can't, all right? So we have to think about why people are buying. And this was a hard thing for me to understand whenever I was a young entrepreneur. People are shifting, especially now, and this is great for you, by the way, they're shifting their value to, from where it used to be price focused, or so we think it is, right? It's actually culture focused, it's actually experience focused. But when you're young in entrepreneurship, it's hard to realize how to build these things. I'm gonna get into that in a second. But first things first, you have to understand that we are in a time where people are shifting from price consciousness to convenience consciousness. So the first thing I would do if I was you, and what that means is that they are willing to pay more to get it today. They are willing to pay more for faster shipping. They are willing to pay more to be more convenient, to save them effort and energy. So you need to think about ways that you can do that. That will be where I start first. The second thing that you have to understand is this. There's a number of ways around price battling people, okay? You can build an amazing culture that people feel like they belong to. You can make a better product or serve with a better product. I'm assuming because you didn't mention what you sell, that your competitors are selling the exact same products that you're selling. That's where you need to get creative. Can you create your own product that maybe you could sell on the site and actually control the price point? And if that is the case, it would have to be a superior product in quality, right? Because you're making a product to compete with products at a cheap price point that all your competitors are driving down. So you're gonna make a better product that's gonna be fairly priced that you can actually make money on, and you're gonna work it that way. That's one way you could do it. I don't know if you can do that yet, but that's a way that you could definitely do it. Another thing though, is you could create a better customer experience. You can make sure that every customer you do have has such an amazing experience with you through value-added items. These could be things like follow-up phone calls, handwritten thank you cards, things that you could do very inexpensively to create a better experience that will help keep people in your model at a higher price point, okay? People value experience, all right? And that's another way you could make margin. Now, obviously, you're probably sitting there thinking, well, that takes a lot of effort. Well, fucking right it does. It takes a lot of effort, okay? But when you're selling a commodity that everybody else is selling, you're gonna have to come up with something or you're not gonna be in business very long, all right? Especially when you're the guy with the least amount of money. The big guys can outlast you because they can sell things cheaper and they're probably buying those things cheaper and still making the margin that they need to make, which is the battle that all entrepreneurs fight when they're first starting. So you've got to get creative and you've got to be willing to put in sweat equity to make the experience better, to retain more customers, and to get them to tell a better story about you to all their friends, families, and acquaintances. And by the way, you are at a tremendous advantage because you have social media. I didn't have social media when I started, okay? The word of mouth acceleration that would grow our business, you know, through people's networks, family, friends, that took years for us when we were starting. For you, it takes 1 second. Somebody to create a situation where they're thrilled with the experience, they're thrilled with the product, they're thrilled with the results that they're getting, well, no matter what problem it is that they're solving by your product, right? Your product does solve a problem, otherwise you shouldn't be in business, okay? And they're telling stories about you, okay? People buy from other people, they don't buy from you. They buy from the experiences that your customers create with stories that they tell to their friends, okay? So there is a number of ways, none of which are easy, by the way, to make money selling things that are the same as everybody else. The best thing that you can do is to vertically integrate your business and work to make a product that you will sell that will be of higher quality, that you could sell at a higher price point and compete against the products that are being basically hoarded out across the internet. And then that way, you're gonna be able to make the money you need to make. Great question, man. A lot of people struggle with this. I hope that answered. If not, shoot me a DM and we'll figure it out even further. Next question.
All right, you talked about butchering names, and I think I'm going to do that with this one. Next one comes from Josiah Miles in regards to supervising.
Josiah?
Josiah? Josiah? I don't fucking know.
That's what it sounds like to me, man. What is the question? Let's see it.
Hey, Andy. So I supervise about 20 people. We're on a 24/7 operation, so the plant never shuts down. It's a manufacturing plant. Trying to figure out how to keep everybody consistent and hold everybody accountable when I'm not there 24/7. So how does that differ? Is there anything different that you would do versus an 8 to 5 gig?
Josiah, bro, that's a really good question. I always tell my managers that managing people is the hardest job on earth. It is, because you're controlling multiple personalities and you're basically the conductor of an orchestra that you're trying to get everybody to work together to accomplish a task. First things first, there's a reason that there is a saying that says leading by example is not the best way to lead, it's the only way to lead. Vince Lombardi said that, okay? So no matter what I talk about as I answer your question, if you're not doing this shit that you're asking your employees to do and you're not doing it better than them at a higher standard that they do, you will never get them to do what you want to do. It'll never happen. And that's where most leadership falls apart. Most leaders decide to be a boss and they put their feet up on the desk and they tell people what to do instead of doing it with them and teaching them how to do it and showing that their willingness to do the work that they're asking other people to do. If you're not willing to do it, you're not going to get good results, plain and simple. Now, moving on past that, how are we going to conduct our orchestra of workers when we're not there? That comes down to two things. People are motivated by positive things. People are motivated by negative things, okay? The carrot and the stick. You're either going to give them a treat or you're going to beat their ass. Most leaders use the stick because they're too lazy to educate people and paint the picture of what they can accomplish together if they all work together, all right? So the way to get people to do what you want them to do on a consistent basis when you're not there is to become a great storyteller, a great picture painter, and a great coach, and a great I'm in the trenches with you type of guy, okay? You have to be willing to clean the toilet. You have to be willing to sweep the floor. You have to be willing to do all the shit you're asking of them and better than they do it so that they see the standards up here of what's expected. People respect that, all right? Because this is all respect driven. It's not fear driven, all right? You've got to understand that these people that are working for you have goals. They want to accomplish things. They want to be a part of something. And whether you sell tires or whether you're selling Ferraris or whatever, people have an inherent need to be a part of something. And that goes for a team. So what is your mission? What is your enemy? What is it you're trying to accomplish? Identify that. Tell a story about how, when all these guys get together, you are going to accomplish that goal, and it's going to help bring them up, which it should. Don't lie to them. If your company's winning, if you're winning, they should win too. And if it's not that situation, you need to figure out how it can be that situation, or you're never going to get peak level performance when you're not there. People have to know there's a real payout. People have to know there's a real commitment and mission, and they will, instead of having to be forced with the stick to do the work, like most workplaces, which is why most people are unhappy, which is why most companies suck, they're going to be excited to do it because they're contributing. They're part of a team. They have a real mission to accomplish, all right? It has to be mission driven. And they know that if they accomplish the mission, not only is it good, right? Because your mission should be good. What product, what service, what solution are you providing that is for the better good? You need to identify that into your mission. If it's not good and you're telling people to do shit that they know is morally wrong, they're never going to get up and do it because they want to do it, which is what you need. All right? So identify the mission, tie in the good, tie in people's ability to accelerate their growth and accelerate their lifestyle and hit their personal goals into accomplishing the mission, and follow through with that, because this mission here, once it's accomplished, you're going to need these people to do the next mission. And if you don't follow through on the first mission, then their trust in you is eroded and they'll go back to being unmotivated, uninspired cogs in the machine, which will do the minimum as opposed to the maximum. All right? Leadership and management is super, super hard. But I can tell you this. If you just do two things. One, show yourself willing to do everything that needs to be done and do it better than everybody else. And two, you learn how to tie in the end result to their daily actions. If you can do those two things, and you will see a 1,000,000% increase in the amount of enthusiasm, the amount of energy, and the amount of follow through that you see with your employees when you're not there. Next question.
Next question comes from Shane Asher, and he's basically wanting your take on the 5 qualities that you think every entrepreneur should have.
What's up, Andy? Shane here. If you could list 5 qualities that an entrepreneur would need, what would you pick?
That's a good question, man, because there's like literally 100 qualities. You know, entrepreneur is a resourceful person. They're people that can do a little of this, a little of that. They're really good at one thing, and they're good at having people surround them that are better than them at these other qualities that they know a little bit about. I would say that the ability to identify and place other people in the proper situations where they can flourish is a great quality. Grit is a great quality. You've got to be willing to get drugged through the dirt, to get punched in the fucking mouth over and over and over again and keep getting back up, okay? Passion is a huge one. You have to be passionate about what you're doing, truly passionate about it, because you're not gonna make money for a long time. And during the time that you're not making money, you're gonna have to have a reason that's pushing you through. That's why I always tell people that people who just do shit for the money are gonna fall off, right? That's why the competition at the beginning is the hardest, because everybody thinks they're gonna do it for the money, but when they don't make money for 2 or 3 or 4 years, they quit. And there has to be something that keeps you going during that time, and that's passion. I would say vision is one. If you want to be a true entrepreneur, if you want to be somebody who is going to do well for 50 years, all right, you've got to be able to see the shit in your industry coming down the pipe before anybody else sees it. You've got to be able to see around the corners before anybody else. You've got to be able to see what's happening and be able to predict the future for what you're doing for the next 3, 4, 5 years in advance. So vision. I would say, we could say a different 5 and this and that, but dude, enthusiasm, man. Like, I think that entrepreneurs, you have to be enthusiastic because in the beginning, you're gonna have to sell. And if you don't have enthusiasm, it's gonna be hard for you to sell. So passion and enthusiasm might go together. So I'll throw a 6th one in there. I would say the ability to, I would say the ability to sell, okay? Selling is a huge part of being an entrepreneur. In the beginning, you're gonna have to sell, okay? If you don't know how to sell and you can't sell, and I'm not talking about just selling a product, I'm talking about selling your customers on the idea of what you do, selling your employees on the mission at hand, selling every single person inside of your culture on what the greater good is of what we're trying to accomplish. You have to be able to sell vision, not just sell a product, which is important, but you got to be able to sell a vision, which is why vision and selling are both important to an entrepreneur. I know there's a million qualities that you guys are going to fucking type and say, oh, you missed this and missed that. Hey, look, I'm going off the top of my head here. I'm giving you real shit. There's 1,000 qualities that make up a great entrepreneur. Those are my top 6, at least for now. If you ask me in an hour, I might tell you something different.
So I decided to throw in a bonus question. I think we should do that from now on, something short and sweet.
Yeah.
This is from Daniel Wicello, and he basically wants to know about your diet.
Hey Andy, big fan of the podcast and the Instagram page. Just wanted to ask how your diet has changed from 330 pounds what you were to what you are now, and what you're eating, what supplements, and are you doing 3 to 5 meals a day? Are you intermittent fasting? 3 meals, 1 meal, and what's your diet typically consist of? Thanks, mate.
Daniel, dude, look, you're like the 4 millionth person to ask me that. First off, I appreciate the mention of the podcast. Thanks for listening, bro. Really, really appreciate that. People forget that, I do own a nutrition company, and I am very knowledgeable when it comes to nutrition and diet. I am an expert at that. Just like other people, like Gary Vee, for example, is an expert at wine. People forget that. I'm an expert in nutrition and supplementation and formulation. So one of the things that you have to remember is that, like, dude, I know all this shit and I know what my body reacts to, and what your body might react to is going to be different. So, and what you're able to adhere to will be different too. For me, I do very well with a CKD, which is cyclical ketogenic diet, all right, which is basically when I was 350, I started doing CKD, which is basically Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I did 0 carbs, all right? So I did high fat, moderate protein, 0 carbs. On Wednesday night, I would have a carbohydrate meal, which would be 400 to 700 grams of carbohydrates, almost like a cheat meal, all right? Then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I went back to 0 carbs, and then on Sunday, I would have a cheat day, all right? Now, a lot of people will say, fucking cheat day, cheat meal, blah, blah, blah. Look, dude, when you're 350 pounds, you could drop a lot of weight with a whole cheat day. And I had to do it because I wasn't disciplined with my diet, all right? So I went from 350 down to about 270 with that diet. Most of that weight was lost in about 6 months. Then I started sticking at 270, and this is where I said with the cheat day, I had to change things up, and I had to get a little more strict. So I went to a straight ketogenic diet, and keep in mind, I carry a lot of muscle, so like at 270, I'm still pretty lean. I have abs at 270. I had to work harder, all right, which meant I was gonna have to be more strict on my diet. So I went to a straight ketogenic diet where I was eating less than 10 grams of carbs, less than 20 grams of carbs a day, high fat, moderate protein. And then I would do that every day. And I did that for literally, I did it for, I think my highest was 26 days in a row with 0 cheat meals or days. So I would stick to the program for 21 days to 28 days. Then I would have a carb day, all right? And carb day was not a cheat day. It was high carbohydrate. I usually did sushi. I did some sort of clean meals with like, chicken and jasmine rice or rice. and I worked in carbohydrates that way. And then what I would do is I would go back for another 21 days on and then have a carb day, okay? And I did that for September, October, November, and I went from 270 down to 239, all right? So that got me pretty close to where I need to be, which is where I'm at now. I still have some fat that I want to lose, but I'm going to lose that through the ketogenic program. You know, and that's what I'm going to do. I would say for September and October, I did just straight keto, and then for November and then the half of December, I worked in intermittent fasting with that. So what I would do is I would eat all of my calories between the time of 5 p.m. and 11 p.m., and then I would go from 11 p.m. all the way to 5 p.m. on a fast. And I know that sounds horrible, but you know what? It's not that hard. And the cool thing about it too is it helps you develop severe, pinpoint, laser-focused diet discipline, all right? So when I said earlier I had to have a cheat day, that was because I didn't have diet discipline. But whenever you start to develop more and more diet discipline, you can do things that you couldn't do before. You know, I have a food addiction. Food addiction's a real thing. People don't understand it. I'm sorry if you don't think it's real. It's fucking real, okay? And imagine it like this: you've got a heroin addiction, but you've got to shoot up 3 times a day to live, or you're an alcoholic and you've got to drink 3 drinks a day to live, okay? That's what it's like for food. And I have trigger foods: French fries and pizza, man. If I eat French fries and pizza, I will go fucking crazy, and I will eat 40,000 calories, and I'm not exaggerating, all right? So I learned through the ketogenic diet how to develop some discipline and with intermittent fasting, and now I'm in a place where I'm disciplined about what I eat, and I have strong diet discipline. So I would work on that skill. You know, you're gonna get hungry, you're gonna get to where you wanna cheat and all this shit, but you need to look at that as a challenge to your discipline. Because the more challenges that you overcome, the more you believe in yourself, the more self-esteem you have, the more confidence you develop, and the stronger you become, not just with your body, but in every other area. When I was 350, I was undisciplined, clearly. And that made everything else suffer when it came to discipline. And so I like doing things that are difficult with my diet because I feel like it helps me in other areas. So I would choose to focus on building that skill and the benefits you're gonna get from that when things get hard, okay? Instead of looking at what you're missing out. You know, when you're fucking hungry and you're having cravings, drink some fucking water and sack the fuck up and do it. My friend Mark Bell, who's one of my best friends in the world, he always says something: be made of something different. When everybody else around you, you're out to dinner and they're eating shit food and they're indulging and they're letting themselves off the hook, be the motherfucker that sets the example and doesn't let themselves off the hook. Take pride in that. Build discipline. And that mind shift can do a lot of good shit for you, because I know it did for me. I take pride in watching everybody else stuff their fucking face. I take pride in everybody else when I drive by a McDonald's or a Taco Bell and seeing 50 cars in line and me keep going. I take pride in that shit. And you should too, all right? So that's a little more than the answer to your question, but I'm glad you asked, because I'm getting asked a million times about it. I am going to make a full YouTube video dedicated to every detail of what I did, workout and diet-wise, very soon, and we'll cover everything in that. Is that the show? That's the show. All right, that's the show. Frisella Factor 002, all right? Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for spreading the word. Thank you for all the support on my Instagram, my podcast. If you're not listening to the podcast, you need to listen. And guys, thank you, man. Tell a friend. Let us know, and I'll see you on 003.